Hi, this is Rick Gualtieri, and this is another Tales of a Midlist Author. If you're just starting off, you're probably mostly concerned with getting on the Amazon store, KDP, possibly Select. Essentially, you're worrying about ebook. If you've been doing this a little longer, you might be looking to branch out to get onto the other platforms, Nook Press, Google Play, iTunes. We'll talk about that in another post. But there's two other formats out there that you probably should be considering at some point down the line because one widens your distribution and gives you more options, and more options are always a good thing. That's print, specifically print on demand, and audio. Now, with regards to print, it doesn't really need an introduction. I mean, if you've seen a book in your life, you've been to a library, been to a bookstore, looked at somebody's bookshelf, you know exactly what that is. Print on demand means exactly that. You're not necessarily, you don't have a publisher doing large runs for you, and likewise you're not doing a vanity press where you're paying for 500 to sit in your garage until the end of time. Print on demand is exactly that. Print as they're needed. The best place probably to start off there is CreateSpace. CreateSpace is owned by Amazon, which means that if you set up a book on CreateSpace, it automatically goes to Amazon. But you can also set up what's known as expanded distribution and get on some of the other sites like Barnes and Noble. You can also do this for free through Amazon. You can use one of CreateSpace's ISBNs. Some people would say you really should have your own ISBN because it's registered to you, your company, and all that. Honestly, you're probably mostly concerned with sales. And with regards to sales, your own ISBN versus CreateSpace's free one, there's really not going to be any difference there. There are other places to do print on demand than CreateSpace, and in those cases, you probably will want your own ISBNs because you might have a chance at greater distribution there. We're talking Ingram Spark. That's probably the number one place out there, but there's also Lightning Source, Lulu.com, and Barnes and Noble recently started doing print on demand. Mind you, it's print on demand for you. It's not print on demand to get into Barnes and Noble's bookstores. So keep that in mind if you decide to go that route. Typically, I would recommend start with CreateSpace because they have a really friendly user interface, pretty easy to walk through, and there's a decent previewer on there, so you can get an idea of what your book looks like. Although you should always, at least initially, order a print proof yourself. And if you decide to move on later, I would usually recommend Ingram Spark is a good place to move beyond that if you're looking to get into small bookstores or even large bookstores. Audio is it's a huge market. I can't express that enough. It's easily my second largest market. Amazon being my largest with KDP. Audio is next, and then we move on to some of the other bookstores like Nook Press or Google Play. But audio is a market that I wished I had looked into sooner. I started maybe about 2 years ago with audio. As I said, I've been doing this for about 4 years, and I completely underestimated because personally I don't really listen to audiobooks. I'm one of those people. I like my Kindle, I like my phone, or I like a print book. If I'm in the car, I typically will listen to the radio or some such. And what I discounted was the fact that there are so many commuters out there, so many people who work long hours. They don't have time to read books. So whenever they get a chance, they'll listen to one. There's also I guess people who are visually impaired or people who just prefer the format. Regardless, don't underestimate it. And the place you really probably want to start off there is a website called acx.com. ACX is owned by Audible.com, and they're kind of the big name in audiobooks, who in turn are also owned by Amazon. So once again, you're still staying in bed with Amazon if that freaks you out. You can always record audiobooks yourself or hire an independent artist, but once again, ACX makes it nice and easy, and for a beginner, that's really not a bad place to be. The good thing about ACX is their normal distribution is Amazon, duh, Audible.com, also another duh, but the iTunes, which is I'd call that a huge win, getting onto all the various iPhones and such out there. Unfortunately, it doesn't go to Google Play. That is probably one area where there is a downside. And there are other downsides to ACX. You really, once you're done with it, you really can't go back and edit things. And also, it's kind of hard to leak. You don't have control over your prices. You don't have control over your cover once it's finalized. So there are some downsides. It's not like the typical KDP where you have full control. That being said, I would say definitely worthwhile. You have two choices with regards to audio, or a combination thereof. You can choose to pay up front a producer, or you can do what's known as a royalty split, in which case, as your book sells, they get half the money, you get half the money, and you don't have to pay anything up front, which is not a bad solution for being economical. Obviously, things work out a little bit different there, depending on the voice talent you get. Some of the newer voice talent typically will go for the royalty share. Some of the more heavily in demand voice talent, they'll probably want cash up front, or they might want a combination of cash and a royalty share. These are all things to take into consideration. But that being said, once you have a good voice, somebody who's going to record it in a professional environment, and I don't mean sitting there with like a dopey microphone next to their PC, somebody who actually can get into a studio and do this, it's amazing how much they can make your book come to life and open you up to a whole new audience there. For my series, I've been with the same producer for the entirety of it, and at this point, I think when my book comes out, the first question out of people's mouths is, "Hey, okay, a new ebook is out. Hey, that's wonderful. When is he doing the audio book?" Yeah. Well, the truth of the matter is, he does a great job at it. So those are two things to really consider. Audio, once again, huge market, and print, because there are a few things as awesome as having a print version to either give to friends and family, put on bookshelves, what have you, make their way into libraries and all that. So two things to consider, and as I said, good places to start off: CreateSpace and ACX. And that is pretty much it. I mean, I could go into tutorials and stuff on all of that, and you're more than free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to discuss via email, or likewise, do a Google search for this if you get lost. But those are the two places to start with regards to that, and at that point, you will be pretty much covered with regards to formats. All right, so this is Rick Gualtieri, and this is another Tales of a Midlist Author, and we'll be expanding upon this soon with regards to other platforms and such, and I hope to talk to you then. Thanks.